Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Powell, thank you. It's an honor to be able to talk with you today and appreciate the work you and the monetary policy-focused portion of the Fed does. We're rooting for maybe a more consistent input from our bank regulators. So for the regulatory side, I've spoken with multiple bankers who tell me that they've never seen a higher degree of regulatory burden, steering, guidance, shaping activities in the market from regulators. And I don't think that's just narrowly focused on the Fed, but I'd ask you to look into it. There are a lot of people that feel like there's an Operation Chokepoint 2.0 going on, and it's particularly focused on debanking people that are disfavored by the current executive branch primarily, just like the previous Operation Chokepoint was. And so to the extent that you yield any influence over the regulatory component of the Federal Reserve, I think that would be meaningful and important because our monetary system, part of the strength of the U.S. dollar is, of course, a stable store of value. Currencies around the world are wrestling with that and inflation, and you guys are working to tackle it. But the other part is it's an efficient means of an exchange. And when people really feel like some third party is going to steer or shape their money, they don't trust it. I mean, the unbanked and the underbanked, fundamentally, that's lack of trust is part of why they don't use our banking system today. In fact, that's part of the appeal of the digital asset space, is the permissionless nature of it. It seems that a lot of people in the financial services space that have grown up in it, that are leading it today, feel threatened by the prospect of change. And if they've maybe reluctantly concluded that you can't ban crypto, they at least want to keep it account-based so that some third party can actually control the assets, which is a polite way of saying we don't actually trust our citizens to control their money or their assets. We'll let somebody else do it for them because we can control those third parties. And in fact, that's what the regulators do, isn't it?
Isn't what?
They control the third parties. I mean, if you don't comply with the regulatory regime, you don't get to operate a financial services business, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, I think a lot of people were concerned by your remarks yesterday. I know I was, by saying that permissionless digital assets pose a systemic risk to the financial system.
Well, what we said in our guidance, I think if you read through the digital guidance, which I did getting ready for this hearing, of course I read it before we put it out the first time, but it's pretty careful to say that we don't want regulation to oppose innovation and thus entrench incumbents and things like that. It's pretty balanced, the language, and I think it essentially goes to the question of protecting the safety and soundness of institutions. And there is one, I think what we say about, I'll paraphrase it, what we say about permissionless blockchains is that they have been vehicles for fraud.
Yeah, 0.24%. So if you follow your own report on fraud, it's a fraction of what it is with the U.S. dollar.